Because then imagine, Tiffany, now after 3 years of this relocation, this amazing relocation in South Africa, now we are back to Germany. And one of the biggest things now is, okay, how do I reconnect to my family and friends? It seems easy, but it's actually not. And one of the biggest challenges here is just to learn, okay, I don't need to convince them of like my journey is the right one, or like, oh, go overseas and bring this experience to your family. It's just rather of understand when to let go. You want to share, but you don't necessarily want to convince them, because of course they haven't shared this journey with you.
So I love what you're saying, and I love this topic, Gisela, because for me, it's been challenging, right? When you go through a transformative experience in life, bringing people along to that experience can be hard. You can feel like you're on this journey, and then when you go back home, you're far removed, right, from your family and from your friends.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and so for me, one thing that I found that's been really helpful is just cracking the door open a little bit. What
Exactly do you mean by
yeah,
that?
and I know I'm like, what does that actually mean? So for me, it's just giving people the opportunity to learn a little bit, even if they don't fully understand, even if they're like, you're crazy for doing this adventure. It gives them a different perspective. And so when I say cracking the door open a little bit, it's even if they don't ask you, tell them a little something about your experience, right? Like give them a little nugget, a little insight into it.
I just feel like, of course, like you come back to your home base, to your home country, and then of course you come back changed. You are not the same person. But then at the same time, like, of course, like our friends, our family, they have led their lives all this time, right? And we're talking about years. We're not talking about like, a relocation of 6 months or something, but rather like in my case, I've been living over 12 years in Germany, then 3 years in South Africa, then going back to Germany, which is my home base, but like it's not my birth country. So there is a lot of complexity there. And I think sometimes like friends or family, it's not that they don't want to understand, right? They just can't relate just because they haven't been in this situation. So I believe, like, as you say, like, just open the door and maybe just show them, like, hey, look, I have done this, or I have done that, or like, what does it mean to be abroad? For example, one friend told me, and that resonated with me a lot. I don't know if I told you, but she told me, like, oh, Gisela, to me, you are like the window to the world. And that was something interesting because I always like to share and just to involve my people. But yeah, when you come back, you realize, okay, even though you have shared, like they don't necessarily share the same perspectives or the same opinions, right? They could tell you, like, as you say, you're crazy, or okay, you are definitely not thinking about moving overseas again, right? And you're like, well, why not? Because it's something like you start maybe to crave.
Exactly. I want to talk a little more about that, though, that your friend said that you are the window to the world for her. And I'm sure that was a surprise for you, right, to hear. And so I'm really curious, like, what did that mean for you? And kind of what other surprises have you had in terms of your friends or family's reactions to this experience, right, that you've had being an expat?
It's super interesting because I believe sometimes we are not even like aware of that. unless someone else tells you.
Yeah.
And in this case, I like to share my journey. I like to sometimes, give a call or send a picture over a social media platform and so on. But I wasn't aware that for them, for friends maybe from my city back in Mexico, is something that they have never seen before, but they are curious. So that was to me like a very surprising thing, like, oh, okay, I'm like the window to see the world. So that made me also a bit more aware of, oh, okay, maybe not only like share your journey, but also like what it means, and always both sides. Because some people, or most of the people, they would just only see, like probably it happens also to you, like this nice part, like the travel, the new, the experiences, the kids learning all these languages and having all these possibilities. But I'm always trying to get to the point also to explain what it takes. It's a lot of effort. You're constantly being out of your comfort zone. You're always like in the need of learning a new culture, of figuring things out in a different way. So that has been one of the surprises to me, just also to see like, oh, there is another perspective to that. Another surprising thing I would say is like you go back to your home base, you see and reconnect with your friends again, and you come kind of like excited, and you try or want to share, like your experiences and how it was for the kids, and of course we changed schools, and it's been this and that and different, and then also like this. Reaction of friends like, oh, but you are finally settled now. So okay, it was crazy, but you are finally at home. So you are definitely not looking to relocate again. So these assumptions, that's been like a discovery for me. And then it depends who you are sitting at the table with. But like this is like a common sentiment, like people would rather ask me back home like, oh, but you are settled now, so you don't want to do all of this again because it's a lot of work, it's crazy. So, and my answer is yes, I would. I'm actually open. I don't know, like if the next year or something, but like I'm pretty much like open to see, right? Like what comes. And then they are like very intrigued and very surprised, and maybe always not necessarily like excited about that, but rather a bit like even, I might say even negative, like that's not good for a kid, or that's not good for your family dynamics and so on. And then I come to that, like I feel like I don't need to convince them because they are living or experiences another journey, another situation, right?
Exactly. I love it. So there are two things you said, Gisela, that I think will be really interesting to touch on that I'm sure people are curious about, right? So one is you talked about your friends saying you're back home. Right. And so I think it'll be really good for us to talk about, and we can do that, in one of our future episodes, but to talk about what is home.
Yeah, in
what
the
does
first
home
place,
actually mean?
what does it mean actually? Because now I bet for us or for people experiencing these like transformative experiences in life, like moving abroad is your definition of home definitely change.
Exactly.
It's not the same. Like it's not maybe a physical place anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I think too, the other thing for me that comes up is kind of where you said that, sometimes people have a negative connotation. And this can be challenging, especially when those people are close to you, right? Whether it's your family or close friends, or, family where we're living abroad with our kids. That means that our parents don't have close access to them because they're not able to hop on a plane or drive to see their grandchildren. We're not able to see our siblings, right, as often as maybe we would want to. And I think that for me, it's also like, how do we balance that when we talk about what does it look like to be abroad? What does it look like to, go back home, to maintain, those relationships that we have? And one thing that's worked, I feel like, well, is really inviting, right? Inviting family, inviting friends to come, to experience, right? And I think also recognizing that just as much as this is our reality and this is like what we're living and how we're prioritizing life, everybody in our lives, our family and our friends, have their own reality.
That's true. That's something that we should not forget, because like sometimes, and that's true, we are just so busy with our own lives.
Yeah.
Then we go back and we kind of have a certain expectation
Yep.
of like, oh, family must visit us, or like
Exactly.
friends should come over. They are anyway traveling, so why are they not coming to visit me? Truth is, yeah, we are friends, we are family, but everyone has their own dynamics. Everyone has their own certain amount of holidays or budgets, or you name it, right? And just also to bring this tolerance, not only from their side, but also from our own side. Like, we are the ones who have chosen this life, right? Like,
Exactly.
we wanted
Exactly.
to be here,
Exactly.
and coming back to what I mentioned before, is not only like this nice part of traveling, and or like, you know, to learn a new culture at work, private, whatsoever, but also like it brings this, we are away from our family, from our
Yeah.
beloved people, and
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Exactly.
And it takes a lot of awareness, I would say, and also tolerance, just to accept and not take things personally. In my own opinion, now
Yep.
going back to Germany, like, they don't mean it because of you. It's just because of the setting. I don't know. It's
Exactly.
it's a lot of work, like, going on. It's not just a thing that you do once and it kind of works. It's a
Exactly.
process,
Exactly.
and you are learning by doing, more or less.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And I think the thing for us not to forget is how one thing can transform someone's life. So just sharing,
Yeah,
right? One
absolutely.
experience that we've had living abroad, just giving, right? Like one little sneak peek into that window of the world that could really transform like our friends or our families to just see something new, something different. And I think sometimes we don't necessarily see that because this is the life that we are used to living, right?
Yeah,
You've been
this
outside.
is our normal.
Exactly.
And the question is, what is normal? So this is for us normal, like
Yeah.
living abroad over many years, like having this
How
family.
many for you?
Like, I've been abroad now 15 years. And not only like in one country, but like already like across three different. So I'm originally from Mexico. Then I moved to Germany for 12 years, where I worked and started a family.
Yep.
Then 3 years in South Africa, which has been also completely different to those other two places or two other continents.
Yeah.
And then now going back to Europe, going back to Germany. So there is a lot of learning, of evolution, of change that comes with this. But yeah, as you say, I think also like just to actively invite your friends, like it starts with maybe a call, like involving them, but also like actually inviting them. And I do know it has a lot to do, of course, with possibilities, if they can or not, but at least you like open the door to that. Like you came to visit us to Germany, and now every time that we talk, like, you really know, like, okay, she's sitting in this space, like, this city looks like this, and you take like the public transportation there and you walk down that street because you have been there. And I think that creates also a bond. So my parents have visited us also like across all of these places, and that's also a way of shaping your new relationship, right? Because it changes over time.
Exactly. I love it.
And then, Tiffany, to be honest, one of the other things or challenges that come with this is the reverse cultural shock.
No, it's true.
Like, with our repatriation, to be honest, I didn't think it's gonna happen. And I remember, like, in the scope of this repatriation, I got a career coach, and he was helping me to plan my coming back to work, you know, like revamp my whole CV and all of that. But he told me, like, just be mindful about the reverse cultural shock, because you're coming back home, yes, but you're coming back different, and that's gonna take longer than you might expect. So maybe don't plan to start like, you know, like looking for a job right immediately, but take a bit of time. And I remember I told him, like, no, of course not. I mean, I've been living in Munich for like 12 years. I know the city. I know I have friends. So I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you. I will keep it in mind. And it turned out it was exactly as he said. And you know what? You come come back different and you see everything with different eyes. Like it's a different lens that you are like using or wearing then. And you know what's the funniest part or like the most interesting part is like my husband is German, so it's actually his home country, you know, his city. But if you ask me, like, who is the one who is struggling the most with this reverse cultural shock? It's he. Like he's the one that is like, oh my God, why are things the way they are? Like, oh, people, why are they reacting like this? What's going on? I'm like, I told you, it was always like that. Because to me, it was always like that. I learned to navigate those waters, but like as a Mexican, I always observed that probably with other eyes. But for him, it was like the baseline. That it was natural, whether it's good or wrong. I'm just saying like it's different, right? So for him now, going back home, I'm hearing him like just mentioning all of these things that I told him like years ago, but he wasn't able to see it that way on that time. But now he can. Can you imagine?
Yeah, you know what? And that doesn't surprise me, honestly, Gisela, because I feel like that going back to the US, you know, and not repatriating as of yet, but just going to visit. And the US is my birth and home country, right? But you just evolve. You see things through such a different lens. It's almost as if you went and picked up glasses, right? And you were like, oh my gosh, I see the world so much clearer because of the experience, right? Because now I have an even more, and I'm going to say even more because I felt like I already had a global perspective. I considered myself a global citizen even before I moved abroad, which I think a lot of, you know, people do who are interested in this. But you don't realize how much you're still transformed, right?
You see other things. Like it's maybe a funny example, but like I remember after living 12 years in Germany, where they put a lot of effort into the, you know, like keeping the environment and like being like top notch in measures, like maybe not using plastic, things like that. When I moved to South Africa, I always got like this sense of, oh my God, what's happening here? Every time I saw a cucumber like filled with plastic, you know, like why would you do that? Like you're just like spending, like, you know, wasting this plastic and creating more trash, because you learn a lot from this in other countries. And I go back to Mexico and I always get a panic attack seeing like people just using disposable plates just to, because they are lazy to wash, you know, like, or to do the dishes, like just things like that. Like before my experience, I never thought about that. You just see those little things with very different eyes, and you are like, oh, you can actually do that, but you need to be mindful at the same time that you can't just come and just try to say that you know it better, if you know what I mean. So,
exactly, because the biggest thing that I feel like I've learned with this kind of what we consider to be reverse culture shock, for me, going back to the US, is that everyone evolves and goes on their journey at a different pace and time based on what they're exposed to. And I think the biggest thing that I can do is give them an opportunity to see and hear and be exposed to something that they may not be familiar with. So I think the reverse culture shock is normal, but I think there are ways to manage through it, right?
To navigate it.
Exactly. So as we're leaving you today from this episode, for me, one of the biggest takeaways is crack open the door. Share a little bit about your experience living abroad with your family, with your friends. You never know how it may impact or transform their life. And for those who haven't had an opportunity to live abroad yet, go visit that friend or that family member who is. You might really enjoy it, and you never know what you'll learn.
So another takeaway for me, at least from my own perspective, is like just to be able to change perspective, to also try to understand your family and friends, right? Like the way they act or react is just based on their own journey, and we should be mindful about that. Like not only like to expect them to understand us because we have been gone and we are back out of the sudden, but also like we do our effort to understand their own perspective. This episode is all about redefining home. The question is, what is home? what is home for us expats living abroad, and what is the heart of our home.